Hi there, and welcome to the ATS podcast with me, Will Brown, and John Soulsby, where we break down chunks of health and fitness information into bite sized pieces, remove a bunch of the noise, and just leave what's relevant. Today we are on season 3, episode 11, which is Advanced Strength Training Programming for Powerlifting.
Yeah.
The Advanced Strength Training Programming for Powerlifting, kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it as a bit of a misnomer, but I'm like, you, I mean, they're kind of the same thing. Like powerlifting is a very specific application of maximal strength training. Like
Yeah.
you're not just generally getting strong, you are very specifically getting strong for a very specific thing, which
Yeah.
would be maxing out in the squat, bench, and deadlift.
Um, yeah, I suppose like that's like powerlifting in general is like fairly simple as a sport goes because your objectives are three things in comparison to if you're talking about like contact sports or like field sports in general.
Mm.
There's more than three things you want to be good at. Um, but yeah, as you get more and more advanced, I suppose the things you're starting to do are just like really focus in more on the specifics of squat, bench, and deadlift rather than when you're new, you need a lot of general strength work because you kind of suck at it all. But by the time you're advanced, you'll know very much what you're bad at.
Yeah, I think it's kind of it's maybe the opposite of what most people think. The the most advanced programming doesn't tend to be the most complicated. It's usually going to be like doing all of the very simple specific stuff either really often or to a really high standard all the time.
Yeah,
Like beginners don't need to squat bench deadlift more than a couple times a week to see ridiculous progress right the way through like intermediacy. Like you can still probably rock um two squat workouts a week depending on how much you like depending on your recovery from squats. But as you get stronger and the damage incurred in a single squat workout gets more, you might actually see a decrease in that. Like at some point in intermediate, you might try and squat 3 times a week, given one of them being very light and mainly just for technical stuff. But
yeah,
as you get stronger and stronger and the loads you lift session to session get more and more, you may typically see a reduction in that. I know some people that Pana from France is squatting like 6 times a week,
yeah,
and he squats heavy like all the time. Like some people are really out there, like really pushing the envelope in terms of kind of specificity and like really what might work at the top level. And I mean that guy is like in
hella
the
strong.
group of people that's in like the decimal point one top of the percentage point of the top
Yeah,
1%. Like if you're at Sheffield, you are confirmed like one of the best in the
yeah,
world.
no, totally.
Um,
Um,
so yeah, advanced strength training programming. A lot of people get into like accommodating resistance stuff, chains, bands, various things. Again, with those are typically like they started off very popular for use with equipment because it kind of semi mimics the change in relative load in the equipment, as in like as the squat suit or bench shirt take more and more strain of the load, you don't need to have like your body does not. Versus at the top where the suit and the shirt take the least, you need to be taking a whole bunch of weight. So you
yeah,
kind of mimic that with these exercises or setups where weight gets taken off either by decreasing band resistance or chains piling up on the floor for when you're in the bit where the shirt and suit would take the most, and then as you push through, it slowly or very rapidly, in fact, kind of piles on the weight as you go through the motion, which kind of trains you to, essentially keep up maximal effort throughout the entire range of motion. Where it would typically start to get easier, it gets way, 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 way harder. Because as your leverage
yeah,
improves, the load gets bigger and bigger from the band or the chains. I don't think that has much application in raw powerlifting. You can obviously just try it. There's again, many schools of thought. There's loads of ways to skin a cat. You're always just looking for the skinning knife rather than the grenade.
Yeah.
They both get the job done, but one is significantly more appropriate than the other. Um, and yeah, the advanced training doesn't usually end up being the kind of fanciest or weirdest looking. It's usually just the simple stuff that you found that works done to a consistently very high level for extended periods of time.
Yeah.
Like, there are very few people who are very good who haven't got a lot of time in the game. Like, even like at the young age groups, like loads of people have started when they're like 12, 14, and so by the time they're like 21, they've got like 7 years in the game already. Like,
Yeah.
that's so much training time.
It's like that's like super common. Yeah. Especially powerlifting, there's almost no one that just like walks in an absolute stud and is just like, I'm
Yeah,
fucking good at this.
there's a couple. Like, there's one or two
But
maybe, but even then, like, still, yeah, it's the exception, not the rule.
yeah.
Um, yeah, in terms of advanced strength training, I mean, if you're an advanced strength training practitioner or an advanced powerlifter, probably not listening to our podcast about general fitness stuff, usually for beginners, or like
Yeah.
taking complicated topics and stripping it out. Yeah, advanced stuff, I guess, is just biasing what has worked for you in the past, which is why note taking is important. Like, look back at all of your training, what has worked the best, try and eliminate the things that haven't worked, and obviously keep trying new ways of doing things to see if they work better. But always keep in mind what has worked in the past and the fact you will have to do some stuff that isn't that in order for it to continue being a stimulus. But
Mhm.
then once you have found some other stuff that works, pivoting, it's like kind of trying to assemble like a greatest hits of training. Like, you're trying to get all the bangers, like all the singles off your multiple albums of
Yeah.
blocks that have worked really well over your career and just assemble them in some kind of order that works fantastically. Or finding out some other stuff that works and having your pre-comp block be one of the many ones that has worked for you. But typically a lot of people find a very consistent uh, selection of exercises, set rep paradigms, like overload or no overload, like frequency, all that kind of jazz. They test all the variables and find a bunch of combos that work, and they probably just stick to those. It's usually how it goes.
Yeah. Totally.
So yeah, the advanced stuff.
Agreed.
In summary, advanced strength training for powerlifting is incredibly specific stuff that you already know works, done to a really high standard consistently for a long period of time.